If you love PTCGO as much as I do, then you'll love buyptcgocodes.com. They have all the latest codes in stock, and if you use my discount code PSG, you'll get 5% off your next order. Highly recommended. Gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon fans. Welcome to another PlaySkape Games video. And today, we're very excited. We finally got a full set list for Darkness Ablaze, the upcoming Sword and Shield set. We're very excited for this. It's the huge set, probably the biggest one we've had since, in terms of like competitiveness, hyped cards coming out. It's probably the biggest like hyped set we've had since probably Unbroken Bonds, maybe Team Up. Like it's been a good year anyway. So there's really some cool cards in this set, and I just thought we'll go through the set list and show some of them off and talk a bit more about them. And yeah, but big thanks to PokeBeats for getting the set list up. It's not I would say, like, we haven't seen like a scan of the full set list, including all the secret rares, but they've had some English cards from early pre-release supplies and stuff, and they worked out basically the main set list of the cards, excluding the secret rares. So unfortunately for fans of the Galarian Cursor and the Grappalot, they seem to have been cut from the from Darkness Ablaze. So we might be getting them in our Sword and Shield 3.5, the mini set. So you gotta wait a bit to see those, unfortunately, if you're fans of those. The biggest omission, obviously, though, is Gardevoir VMAX. A lot of people are like Gardevoir, but I think because like it's called Legendary Heartbeat, even though Gardevoir's not a legendary, or the September set's from like Legendary Heartbeat, or the translation of like Master's Fall or something. Yeah, but so Gardevoir VMAX isn't in either, but yeah. Other notable omissions, a few trainer cards, nothing of note. They think that one of the potentially Eternitus VMAX Rainbow has been omitted, but we don't know. But this set list is going to focus primarily on the set list is going to be focusing primarily on the cards in the main sets, and there's no sign of Charizard VMAX Rainbow. Obviously, I didn't expect it to come in English, so yeah, I did a video talking about that for like 10 minutes. So check it out if you get a chance. And we've also got the pre-release promos confirmed as well. So 4 really nice cards. Deciduous is obviously the one everyone's going to be hyped for, but I really love the art on this Kangaskhan. So if you get a chance, speak to your local tournament organisers, your gaming stores, and pick up your build and battle kits from August the 1st. So not long to go for those. So we're going to have a look at some of the cards together. So hopefully they pop up quite nicely on the screen there. We'll just do it slightly smaller. There we go, so you can actually see the images. So Butterfree V. So it's Butterfree V and VMAX, obviously. So what with the Butterfree V is quite nice. It's just, well, the Butterfree V is not nice. The VMAX is alright, but Butterfree V, Confuse and Poison for 1 grass energy, 130 damage. Nothing really to get excited about there, but I love the artwork. Collectors are going to love the Butterfree card. The VMAX, we're all here for the VMAXs, and unfortunately, I'm not overly hyped for the Butterfree VMAX. So it basically says your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned and confused for 3 grass energies. That's quite decent, don't get me wrong. So you're going to be doing 160 when the poison ticks over, and if they're confused, you know, it might be quite hard for them to, they have to find a switching card, otherwise they have to risk a coin flip, but it's only 150 damage. I would like this so much more if it was doing potentially like 170 plus, or 180 with the poison potentially, so you get at least 2-shot like Eternitus VMAX and stuff. But the fact that it's only got 300 HP compared to like most of the other VMAXs, which are like 320, 330 on average, and Eternitus VMAX got 340, so it's much stronger in terms of the HP and the attacks and everything else. It's got free retreat, but yeah, it's just going to be a collector's card, I think. If anyone can make Butterfree VMAX work, it'll probably need like extra benefits, like for stuff being poisoned, or you'd have to put in a thick line of Toxicroaks to make the poison stronger, or yeah, I'm not a fan of Butterfree V, but it's still a beautiful card. So we've got some basic Pokemon here. Parasect, Mushroom Tackle, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's Pokemon is now paralyzed. Yeah, nothing there. I do love the artwork though. We're going to point out some nice arts if we see any of them. Okay. So this Carnivine's quite nice. Return for 20 damage. You draw cards until you have 5 in your hand. So some decks, like if they're needing a little bit of extra consistency, you can just quick ball for a Carnivine and then just draw until 5 in your hand on the end. Obviously, there's a lot better attacks you'd rather be playing, but it's a nice option potentially someone might want to use. So there's going to be a Simisage, Simipour, and Sam, the water, fire, and grass one of the monkeys. They all have exactly the same. I believe they have the same HP, but they all have the same secondary attack. Giga Impact for 110 damage, and this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So this may seem extremely underwhelming, but this is just a colourless attack. So you can effectively put, like, if you're worried about certain matchups, you can put the grass type in, and you're worried about, you know, hitting stuff with grass, weakness, fire, water, etc. The only problem is with this is that it's only 110 damage, so you're only doing 220, which isn't even enough to knock out some regular V Pokemon. So I would like this a lot more. These grass monkeys a bit more if they probably at least did 180, so you're like 140 to then 280 with weakness, so at least hitting some of the tag team GXs for weakness. One shot in them, so not overly excited about these, but could be a nice, counter if we ever get any really strong VMAX, like regular V Pokemon. I got 220, 210 HP. So Carablast, Shelmet, nothing exciting there. I mean, let's all take a moment to appreciate like how strong this card is. It's a stage 1 that's got no further evolution. It does 70 damage for a double colour synergy. Clap, clap. Next. Well done, TVCI. So here we have the we're very excited about this. We've got the Deciduous line. So have a quick look at the Rowlet. The Rowlet's quite interesting. So if you are playing a Deciduous deck with the new Birdkeeper card, which I believe you can switch to your bench, and you can then draw 3 cards afterwards. So it's like a switching effect and like a How effect, a +3 draw. If you played the Birdkeeper card, you can then use the Wind Pebbles attack for free, which does 60 damage to one of the opponent's bench Pokemon, which could be nice, like to snipe something late game if you haven't got boss's orders, that you've already done some damage with Deciduous early. Just use Rowlets to snipe if you've got Birdkeepers in your deck. But whether it's worth playing the Birdkeeper in the deck over better draw supporters is probably another question. Yeah, nothing excited about the Dartrix, but then obviously the Deciduous is the big burb, and whilst we're talking about it, we'll go up to the English pre-release promo so you can see like the attacks better. So it's all about the Deep Forest Camo ability. We've seen this before on Pokemon Hooper, the Safeguard Hooper. Older cards that I don't know the names of because I wasn't playing back then, just like stopping all of the attacks from the relevant sort of like big Pokemon. In the case of back then, EXs and GXs, whereas now it's V and Pokemon GX. So for those that ask, Pokemon VMAXs also count as V as well. So your VMAXs and your GX Pokemon. So that's pretty much like, I would say 90% of all the attackers in the format at the moment. And it's going to be, it depends. I'm not sure how strong it's going to be initially, because if it was a basic, I would be a lot more worried, like how powerful the Hooper was, because it was basic. You just slap it down and start walling in like the store decks and stuff. Whereas this is a stage 2. So you're going to have to find ways to get your rare candies out. Potentially you could also pair this with the Rowlet and Alolan Executor GX tag team card to try and like evolve them up quicker, but then you've got a free price, Fire Weak Pokemon in the active, and I'm not sure. But yeah, so it's going to be if Deciduous works, it's all going to be about like how consistent the decks are built and like, trying to surprise people. So it's kind of like when people take, let's say, stall decks to tournaments. You're not expecting the stall decks, but if you don't tech for them, and then people are going to think, oh, let's play the stall decks, because a lot of people are thinking, oh, we're not going to tech for them. So this is always something you've got to probably bear in mind when you build your decks for the next, potentially for the few months, and unless it drops off at some point. Just have an answer to Deciduous. So in the Eternitus VMAX deck, you can use the Hooper plus extra pings of goons. You can also use Spiritomb, but watch out for the Splitting Arrows. Splitting Arrows does 19, 20 damage, so don't power up your Spiritomb like too strongly if you're doing that. In like electric decks, you've got obviously Zapdos. Grass decks, so you can attack with the Rillaboom. I think the Rillaboom does 140, 160 damage, so it knocks out the Deciduous if you're playing the grass deck. Obviously, this is really bad against the Center Scorch deck that we've done the deck profile for on the channel. So there's many copies of the Baby Volcanion, so this just steamrolls over that. So it's really got to be meta dependent. You've got to know like roughly what the meta is. You've got to think like, is it gonna be worth to play Decidueye? You know, are my matchups going to be good enough across the board to warrant playing this? It'll be also a great pick for like small league challenges. You know that nobody's playing fire. You can see like the 6 or 7 people that are writing their deck lists. You don't see any Sender Scorch. You don't see any fire decks. You don't see any like other sort of stronger single prize decks, such as like Phalanx. Phalanx would probably run over this as well. So yeah, so you've got to be bear in mind that I'm gonna say, like, if I give this a rating out of 10, I'll probably give the Decidueye like a 7 out of 10, just because I'm undecided of how strong it will be initially, just because of like all of the various counters that might exist to it. But it's definitely one to bear in mind, and I'd highly recommend you pick up a playset early whilst you can. They're also, as it's a pre-release promo in the box, you can also get them from the Build-A-Baton box as well. So definitely worth keeping an eye out for those. So we've got a Steenie. Choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it. Oh, it's it evolves Scissorine. It's a stage 2 Pokemon. So Power Whip. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This attack does 20 damage to that Pokemon for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So that would be so much better if it was like a basic or a stage 1. But you can only do like 60 damage with Rillaboom, drum beating, and then an energy. And 100 damage, and then return 1 energy to the hand. It's not really worth it for a stage 2. If you're going to play a stage 2 card, you're always probably going to pick Decidueye over pretty much anything else that might come out in this set, I think. So this Golisopod is very interesting. So this has been hyped up a bit. I've seen this go in a few Japanese deck lists as like a one-off, either with Ditto Prism or with the Wimp. Probably we'll have to play it with the Wimpod, the 70 HP Wimpod that comes in the same set. So basically, this does 30 damage plus 50 more for every single one of your opponent's V or GX Pokemon in play. So if you think about it, like at the end of Eternitus VMAX, let's say they got 3 Crobats and 2 Eternitus VMAXs down, just for interest's sake. So that's 280 damage for like a twin energy. So if you're playing I would say that in the future, you might, if you're playing a deck with twin energy, it might even be worth just sticking in like a 1/1 or potentially even a 2/2 line of Golisopod, just to sort of be a soft counter to kind of like these GX or V decks that have like a lot of, you know, GX or V Pokemon down. I mean, like even some decks like Sender Scorch, obviously hit Sender Scorch with a Volcanic hitting this for fire weakness, but if they got like, you know, a Dedenne, a Crobat, and 2 Sender Scorches down, you're doing a decent chunk of damage. Problem is, it's a stage 1, so you're never going to have the element of surprise of being able to like just bench something and then just attack with it straight away. They're going to see the Wimpod. They're going to know potentially to limit their bench. I think the good players are going to potentially play around this one, so I'm not sure how strong it will be initially, but it's definitely an interesting one. Worth keeping an eye out if you're playing any decks with twin energy in them. So the Charizard VMAX. So we're definitely going to be getting the regular art. This art here in the set. This is definitely coming in the set. So we can still get the card, and 300 damage is a lot of damage. Charizard V and Charizard cards, they always have a lot of big attacks that do a lot of damage, and this is no exception. 3 fire and 2 colorless energy. You have to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. But what you can do is you can potentially like Welder, or if you use the Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds to Flare Starter onto it, and the next turn you can just attack. You can just attach a triple colorless energy, and you're doing the 300 damage, and then you discard the triple acceleration energy, triple acceleration energy as the requirement for the 2 energy. So you've done 300 damage, and then that's really strong in theory. So I'd like want to try this potentially in like a either a greens Charizard sort of variant, playing the VMAX instead of the Reshiram Charizard tag team, or with potentially like a heavy ability type version, which potentially uses Scoop Up Nets and Galarian Zigzagoon to do the extra damage. Because unfortunately, even though 300 damage is a lot of damage, it's not enough still to one shot Dragapult, Eternitus VMAX, Sender Scorch, the 3-4 biggest like VMAXs that will be potentially running around in the format. So I would think probably the best way to go about this would be to play in like an ability heavy version where you've got a lot of draw cards. It also helps with consistency, because Green's exploration decks are very sort of weak to reset stamps and Marnies at the moment. And also the Charizard V itself is quite nice. Doing 220 damage, and you have to again discard 2 energy. But if you need to do like the last 220 to knock out something, you know, or even just 80 damage with the Claw Slash, and then you only have to leave up a 2 prize Pokemon. So I think this is probably one of the best like evolving V Pokemon we've probably had. The Charizard V, 210 HP is also very tanky. So I think like in terms of like the stats and the damage and what it can actually do on its own, it's probably one of the better V Pokemon that has a VMAX sort of after it, I would say. It's like Dragapult V's 140 maximum damage, like if you switch it into it, and it's not good. But yeah, Charizard VMAX, I'm excited to play around with this. I'm not sure how strong it's going to be just because of how limited the amount of damage, like the 300 damage cap on it, and then but it's got 330 HP. It's very tanky, and I like Charizards in general. This is going to be a very expensive card, so I'd recommend you guys, instead of just rushing out to purchase multiple copies of this to test of it, get it on the online game, PECGO. We stream live on Twitch most nights, by the way, twitch.tv/PlaySkape Games, link in the description. Yeah, it's PECGO, practice it on there, or print off proxies of this and just give it a go, because I imagine these are going to be like $30-40 each when the set comes out because of the Charizard collectors and wanting to get PSA 10s and stuff. So I kid you not, a Japanese PSA 10 of this just sold for $140, and it comes in a theme deck, mass printed. So yeah, try not to go crazy purchasing these straight away unless you are a very rich person, or you want to just collect it for your set. Houndoom V, this is very disappointing. So 20 damage, your opponent active is now burned. Meh. Vengeful Flame, 100 damage plus 100 more if one of your bench Pokemon has any damage counters on it. You just might as well just play like Heatran GX or I mean, I would say even the Charizard V, the evolving Charizard V that doesn't have a that does the basic is 220 damage flat outright. It's just so much better than this. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Houndoom, but Houndoom collectors will be happy that their card's not super playable, so they can pick it up cheap. I know there's a lot of people who love Houndoom. So we've got a Blaziken. So this Blaziken's really cool. It counts as both a fire and a fighting type Pokemon once the ability is active, passive ability, and then 130 damage, Turbo Drive. You've seen this loads of times before, Solgaleo GX and so forth. You just attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Problem is 130 damage is again not enough. If you're going to be playing a stage 2 deck, you want to be doing a lot more with your attacks, or even having like a more useful ability that might hit more things, whereas this is only hitting for the few, like the occasional like fire or grass weakness, fire or fighting weakness. You're only still doing 2/6 against Eternitus VMAX, which isn't enough. So it's a cool card, but I don't think it will see much play, just because it's stage 2, and yeah, it's very hard to get stage 2 cards out. Trust me, guys. Trust me on this one. And we got wow. I don't remember this new Heatran. So your opponent's Pokemon is now burned, 30 damage. No. So this could be interesting. So 10 damage more for every damage counter on this Pokemon. So if we ever get like a Ninja Boy reprint or some other card that can swap out the Pokemon with all the damage counters on it, then you could do like 180, 200 or sometimes damage with this Heatran. That could be a nice little one for the future, maybe to keep back. I really love the artwork on this. I love like the flares and the sort of the magma in the background there. Another Heatran card there. They love printing Heatran. So this is the fire type version. We've already talked about the grass type, the same one effectively. Right, so this is really fun. So this is a Galarian Darmanitan. So this has fire type, but it's got water type energy. So this is quite interesting. You may discard all water type energy from this Pokemon. If you do, this does 60 more damage. So you're actually doing 170 damage. For 3 water energies, so or 2 waters and a colourless. So you can attach something else, and you don't have to discard the other energy. But that's good because you're hitting 340. So if we ever get a grass type VMAX potentially, that is seeing a lot of play, water Pokemon might struggle, and water decks might, like Frostmoth decks, might struggle against it. You're just sticking a 1/1 line of the Galarian Darmanitan, and then you're hitting it for weakness. So seems a nice little card to keep back, to put a couple in your binder potentially. Vulcan Rona. If your opponent's Pokemon has no damage counters on this, does nothing. Oh, it's a stage 1. Yeah, nah, it's not going to see much play. So we got a Talonflame. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, the attacking opponent is now burnt. So yeah, it's a stage 2 again. And I do like the 120 damage, and the opponent, they can't retreat to the bench, but it's not really worth it. There's too many switching cards, too many ways to play around this. Beautiful artwork though, must say. So finally we got to our boys Centiskorch VMAX. I talk about this a lot more in the Centiskorch VMAX deck profile we did, guys. So we check out the channel and look at the deck list and gameplay playlist. Talk a lot more about Centiskorch VMAX, but I think this is going to be potentially a top 5 deck. with the baby Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds. We're talking about Volcanion again. I think make sure you got your playset of Volcanion, because I think there's going to be a lot of fire decks in the next few months. You're doing a lot of damage turn 2 if you Flare Starter on your first turn. Get a whole bunch of energies on this, and then Welder, and then you're doing big numbers, 260s plus. Where I don't, it's a big numbers, and it's very tanky. And you can also play like healing cards of it, Wondrous Labyrinth, to sort of force them to need to Oh yeah, the extra energy for the Wondrous Labyrinth. Yes, so I got there. But yes, Sensicorp's VMAX, very good cards. If you love fire Pokemon, it's probably going to be the strongest fire archetype. So make sure you pick up your playsets as soon as you can. And Galarian Mr. Rhyme. So this is interesting. Once during your turn, you may choose one of your opponent's face-down prize cards and switch it with the top card from their deck. So imagine like that's crazy. So imagine like if Jirachi Prism like was still in format, you could actually play this Galarian Mr. Rhyme, and you could just put the Jirachi back on top of their deck, and they just make them really sad. But they could just use Oranguru to put it back on again, so it might not be that good. But it's got the Mad Party attack. We'll talk more about the Mad Party later once we get to the DNA and stuff. I thought this Suicune was quite nice. So 120 damage, 130 damage, and you can return 2 water energy from this Pokemon back to your hand. So I can see this really as like a nice little just one-off attacker in like all the Frostmoth decks in future, because you attack, you do the 130 damage, maybe to knock out something that's already been taking some damage from something else last turn, and you save 2 of the water energy. So then you're fresh next turn. You can just use Frostmoth to put them down again. I really like this Suicune. It's lovely artwork as well. Just pick up 1 copy if you like Frostmoth. I would say maybe 2. I'm not sure, but it's going to be a deck on its own. But it's a nice little way to preserve energies. Nice Milotic, beautiful artwork again. But unfortunately, it just says once during your turn you can heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. So this could be definitely worth maybe keeping back as like a 2/2 potentially in the future if we get a whole bunch of spread Pokemon. The only issue with that is the Feebas only has 30 HP. I love that they give us a healing card, but then the Feebas only has 30 HP. Look at that poor Feebas. Oh, he looks so sad. He's struggling. Yeah, it's if you can get like an easy way potentially to get the Milotic out, then it might be worth playing as like an anti sort of spread counter, but not at the moment, I would say. So we got here the Relicanth. You can search your deck for up to 2 rare fossil cards and put them on your bench. Just play better item search. Just play directly to dig for your fossils, I think. So the monkey. So again, we looked at this monkey earlier. It's just a water type of the same one. We talked about it earlier. So interesting. This is like the Galarian Darmanitan that comes from in the theme deck. So just a box image here. It basically just says this attack does 140 HP. This attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's not really worth it for like water, colorless, and then for 4 energy, 170 damage. It's just, yeah, I don't know why they put Galarian Darmanitan in this theme deck. There could have been so many more better. But imagine like if we got a nice Deciduous theme deck. We had Deciduous in Sun and Moon, I suppose. But there was lots of better Pokemon. Even Suicune would have made a better theme deck, I think. But quite disappointing. We got a nice Vanillux. Unfortunately, again, stage 2, but. You flip a coin. If head, you can paralyze the opponent's active Pokemon. So it's a nice little thing, but it's only if it's in the active. You have to coin flip. It won't see any play, I don't think. So Beartic, 150 damage. Nah, not worth it. We've got a new Wishy one. Okay, guys, this is actually more interesting than that other one I talked about earlier. So this Wishy Washy, I really actually like this Wishy Washy in some decks potentially. So it basically just says for 1 energy, you shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw 8 cards. There's a lot of scenarios I can imagine where, you know, in let's say for example Baby Blounds, a lot of the time you just have to use your Quick Ball to find a Zacian, and then all you're doing is Intrepid Sword and just giving yourself +3, but then you're only adding 3 cards onto a hand that you probably didn't like anyway. So potentially like using the Wishy Washy, as long as you got like a way to get into it and then to use the attack for 1 energy, being able to draw 8 cards is really nice, I would say. So I don't think it's going to be played that much or even at all maybe, but it's a nice option to have if you like bricking and you just want to search for a card and just, you know, attach an energy and just get yourself 8 fresh cards, and even if they mine you, you're still, you know, seeing 4 other cards, so it's a nice one to consider, I guess. A really bad Toxapex. Dracov. Okay, so here's one of the fossil Pokemon, so it's going to be using a new fossil. Unfortunately, you can't use Fossil Lab because we've got a new type of fossil here. So this Dracovish, if this is Pokemon is in the active position, your opponent can't play any Pokemon to evolve their Pokemon. So this, we've seen similar effects like this in the past where they can't evolve the Pokemon. I believe Archeops did this. I can't remember exactly if it was, but it's a nice one. But the problem is Archeops could be anywhere on the board, whereas this has to be in the active, and then all you're doing is 120 damage for free water energy. I don't like it. It's a nice idea, but it's because you can't even get like search out for the basic normally. You have to try and find the fossil. Only 120 damage is not enough damage, I don't think. It's a nice idea, but I don't think it'll see much play. So another one of these new fossil Pokemon. 90 damage. It takes 60 less damage from attacks for first attack, and you just put them asleep for 130. It's not bad. So we got a nice new Mareep. Everyone loves the Mareeps. So many new artists, like many different artists in this. Look at this, like a nice Komoya artwork there. Gotta appreciate. There's a little Mareep shaped mountain in the background there. Unfortunately, the Ampharos is bad, but it's still beautiful. 130 damage, lightning, 50 damage, confusing. This such a shame. Ampharos always deserves better, but we haven't had a good Ampharos card in ages. A nice Manectric. So we're getting a better Manectric in the following set, I think, which is a bit of a shame. But you can, for lightning colorless, you do 30 damage to one of your own bench Pokemon. Nah, you just use this one. You do 30 damage. You just switch. I don't like it. So Vikavolt, here we go. Finally, something good to talk about. I've read all this like mediocre disappointment. So it's a return of Seismitoad, everyone. Lightning colorless, 50 damage. You do lightning colorless, 50 damage. You do basically during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards from their hand. So really screws over decks like Baby Blounds that rely a lot on like item cards. It's gonna like Metal Patch, Metal Sort, Turbo Patches in Zacian, Eternitus VMAX. Might be alright because of like using Piers and Crobat Vs and so heavy count Crobat Vs and stuff. But I think like with doing 50 damage over, I don't think you're ever going to use the second attack, just 190 damage to Scar to energy from this Pokemon. Do you know, it's not bad though, because if you're item locking them and you just need to do like a last like bit of damage to take a big KO, just attach another energy and then just do the extra damage. So actually the second attack is actually relevant as well, which is quite nice. But unfortunately, this potentially will only be good for a very small format after Darkness Ablaze is legal and before the rotation 2 weeks later, where we lose all of the cards from before Team Up. And that includes Electra Power, unfortunately. So only doing 50 damage over and over again might not be enough. But I do like being able to do the 190 to finish something off. But even if you think about like Eternitus, you'd have to hit it 3 times to do with the item lock attack and then the 190 afterwards without any extra damage. So without Electra Power, I like this a lot less, unfortunately. And you can get it rolling turn 1 going second quite easily with Coco Prism and energy switches and maybe Turbo Patch, the coin flipping card that we're going to talk about later. But I think it's going to be a strong card. It's definitely going to be played a lot in that 2-week window where you still can use Electra Powers and Thunder Mountain and maybe Volkner, I'm not sure. But it's a very strong card for that small window of tournament format that we're going to have. But post-rotation, which is where the majority of the content we're going to focus on and talk about, and the cards we're talking about, it remains to be seen. We're probably going to get more electric support in the November sets. Astonishing Volt Tackle, I think it's called, because there's going to be a Pikachu VMAX in it, and I imagine they want to support that. But I'll give it like in the special format for 2 weeks where you can play with Darkness Ablaze cards and Electro Powers and older cards. 9 out of 10, really strong. Item lock in, huge damage output, especially when you attach another energy to do the 190 plus, do some extra damage. 210 is nice and tanky as well. You can put a Toughness cape on it. It's got 260 HP, crazy. But I'm not sure about the future viability of it post-rotation, so well, it remains to be seen. But definitely, if you're a Vikavolt fan or you like item lock decks like Seismitoad, definitely pick up like 3 of these just to be safe. So we've got a Coco. So I like this Coco because it's got free retreat. So this might be worth putting like as a one-off in some electric decks after we lose like a skateboards and stuff, because you can just stick it out and then retreat into something else for free. And if you're bricking, you can just attach an energy and just draw an extra 2 cards, which could be a nice little option. But yeah, so this is seeing a lot of talk at the moment. This Toxtricity is a new Mill card. We're very excited. Mill's back on the menu, boys. Flip a coin if heads. Discard 5 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. Yes, 5 cards. That's a lot of cards for a mill. But unfortunately, if it's tails, you discard 5 of your deck. Yep, on the top of your deck. So the great thing is there is a I think it's not called Slumbering Forest. There's a stadium. The forest, Glow Forest, or whatever the forest is called. And I think it says, and we'll go and have a quick look at it quickly because it's very relevant in talking about the context of this one. So Glimwood Tangle. Once during each player's turn, they may ignore the effects of a coin flip when they attack, and then they can begin flipping them again. So basically, you get to flip again with the Toxtricity, which is really nice. Wow, we've got a long way to go, guys. We've only barely touched on the set list. So we're going to try and rush through it a bit quicker. But yeah, so this will probably be like the strongest way to play Mill archetype post-rotation, I would say, with the loss of Oranguru and the Makago GX that people used to copy with Mew and Mewtwo to do the Mill. So I can definitely see some people trying this with like Bellbella and Bryson Man, Chinchino to get the cards out. And all you have to do is slap down a Twin Energy. You know, you can even slap down Twin Energy or a Triple Acceleration Energy. So I think this will be a strong contender if you're going to play a Mill deck. I can see people experimenting this. If it's going to be strong enough, who knows? But we'll have to see. So I'm only going to just point out like anything of note, I think, at the moment. So we've got another one of these fossil Pokemon, but unfortunately, so it just says Rising Charge does 90 more damage the next turn. So you did 30 and then 90. It's not worth it. 200 damage is a lot of damage though, and it doesn't attack next turn. The problem is it's 4 energies. I would love this a lot more if it did 3 energies, because then you could just slip down a Triple Acceleration and just do 200 damage. That'd be filthy. But yeah, 4 energies. You'd have to do like Coco Prism, move the energy over, or Coco Prism and then switch into it, and then a Triple Energy. I'm not really a fan, unfortunately, and 4 retreat costs can be a bit annoying sometimes to deal with. So we got just quickly admire the artwork. It's always good to see a new Jigglypuff. Unfortunately, these are not great. Mew. So a lot of people were hyped to see this. They were excited. They're expecting the Mew to probably do a lot more than it does. Unfortunately, it's just Psychic, 30 damage for all of the energy is attached to both you and your opponent's Pokemon. So if Mew's got 2 energies and your opponent's active Pokemon's got 2 energies, you're only doing 120 damage, which is really bad against like Eternitus. It's weak to Darkness as well. Wow, didn't even realise that. Normally these are weak to Psychic, these Mew cards, but yeah, it's weak to Darkness. Yeah, I do like the fact it's got a free retreat though, but it gives up 2 prizes. I'm not a fan, unfortunately. If we ever get to a point where there's a decks that are attaching like 5-10 energy, this might be a nice, if you're playing a Psychic deck, it might be a nice one-off against Scorch VMAX, but I think you've got so many other better ways. And also Psychic, we haven't got Malamar at the moment, so it's just a bit underwhelming, but I'm sure the collectors will love it because it's just beautiful. Just another stunning Mew card. Everyone loves Mew. So we've got a Gramble Snubble, nothing amazing. We'll just show off the artworks because again, people like these cards. So this could be quite spicy. So basically this attack here says you look at the top 4 cards of either... Oh, it returns to the... Oh yeah, so you look at the top 4 cards of either your opponent or your deck, and then you can return them back in any order you choose. So it could be like a Chip Ice Axe as an attack. But unfortunately, whilst Chip Ice Axe is in standard, you might as well just play that, I think. 20 damage. Nah, it's not great. Not great. So we've got a new Gothitelle card. So the Goth Eater is actually quite nice. It does exactly the same thing as the Lunatone, but you're looking at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, and you can put them back in any order. So that could be quite spicy for some like disruption decks in the future. But Gothitelle, unfortunately, stage 2, and yes, underwhelming. So the main attack just says choose random cards from your opponent's hand. Your opponent reveals them and shuffles them back into their deck. So you're just getting random cards. It's stage 2. I'm not excited about that. So we've got a new Golett and Golurk. Unfortunately, you might as well just play the ones that do, what was it, 170 or 160 damage for Twin Energy, the most recent one, if you haven't got any supporters in your discard. So we're going to talk about the Mad Party card now. So I don't have all the others on the screen at the moment, but there's 4 Mad Party Pokemon, and you basically do 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile that has the Mad Party attack. So you can get to decent numbers, but unfortunately you're not getting close to one-shot in any tag teams, and unfortunately there's not a fighting type one to knock out Eternitus VMAX for weakness. There is a the Galarian type Mr. Rhyme, but you can't really use that because it's water colourless colour, so you're not even hitting like Send Scorch for weakness. We'll see if we can just find the other ones whilst we're here, just so I can show you. So we've got the Poltegeist. So this will be one of the other main ones you're going to attack with. Twin Energy. It's also quite nice. So it's got the ability that says if you can discard a Mad Party Pokemon from your hands and you can draw 2. So it's got like a little trade ability built in to help them get into the discard. But yeah, unfortunately, like these Pokemon also have very low hit points. So unfortunately, they're very susceptible to spreading attacks as well. Bunnelby's probably going to be the main attacker as a basic, and you can just keep reusing it. But this would be a nice little meme deck, maybe like a tier 2 for some local events. If there's a more relevant Psychic Week Pokemon in the format, it could be a nice like anti-meta deck when you attack with the Poltegeist potentially. But yeah, it's just going to be one of those fun decks. I think it's going to not be as good as Lost March was. Lost March had a lot more tools to help it get better, and the HP of the Pokemon, the average HP wasn't as high back then, so Lost March was actually taking like nice knockouts against like Zoroark GX and stuff. So unfortunately not to be for me, but I'm sure some people love experimenting with this and with Mad Party stuff and playing around with it. So Shinotic's not amazing, bit bad. So we got Mimikyu. Basically just says your opponent's bench Pokemon can't be healed. So it all depends on the meta. The only relevant thing at the moment would be stopping Mallow and Lana. So you switch to the bench first and then the Pokemon gets healed. So the Mimikyu should stop that. And we have to wait for the English text just to make double sure. But it all depends on the meta. At the moment, I can't see many decks running Mallow and Lana just because they want to focus on just taking big knockouts with boss most of the time. Or if they're going to use healing, I imagine something like in Send Scorch, I'd much rather just use Hyper Potion, I think. But it's nice. Get a copy, keep it in your binder, and we might get more healing stuff in the future, and this could be like a nice counter to that. It'd be great in this meta to stop Mallow and Lana. God, I would love it in this meta. So just admire the Diglett and Doug trio. We don't often see these nowadays. Love a little Diglett statue in the background there. So we got a Tyranitar. Tyranitar's a bit underwhelming. It's got nice damage though. So 120 damage, you discard a stadium in play, and 250 damage, you discard 5 cards from the top of your deck. So if you're going to be playing a fighting type deck to sort of counter Alternative VMAX, you'd probably want to stick to Phalanx or even Excadrill. It's a stage 2, it's hard to get out, huge energy requirements, and you'd have to play Colossal as well alongside it to accelerate to it. So not amazing, unfortunately. So we've got a new Flygon. So this is quite interesting. This is probably one of the few other sort of half decent stage 2s in the set, I'd say, just because it's got a really nice ability. Your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat, so you could really you could potentially wait. You see when your opponent's played all 4 of their switches, if they're playing a switching deck, you just gust up anything, literally anything that's got like 2 energies, or they run out of energies or whatever, and you can stall them out with this, so they can't manually retreat anymore. Oh yeah, they can't retreat, so they don't need energies. So literally, if they don't have switch, they just lose the game if they deck out or something. So it could be nice, but the problem is it's stage 2, so you'd have to play a Flygon deck. You wouldn't be just using this as a tech to stall people out. And second, the attack says fighting colours. If they have a stadium in play, your opponent, only if your opponent has a stadium, not you. It's going to be your opponent's stadium. You discard the opponent's stadium, and this Flygon's immune to all of the... Is it just the attack? all damage and effects done to this Pokemon from your opponent's attack. So it's nice, but the problem is you have to hope your opponent's playing stadiums. If this said discard any stadium in play, or discard the stadium in play, because then you could play a higher count on your own stadiums, and then you could wall with this. But unless they're playing like 3-4 stadiums, like, it's just not going to be good enough, because as soon as they see the it's Flygon only counts for my stadium, I'm not going to bother playing these stadiums. It's such a shame. Flygon deserves better. There's been good Flygons in the past, and unfortunately this is not one of them. But it's if we get into a heavier stadium meta, who knows? So let's have a look. So none of these guys are a bit lame, just heavy energy requirements. Rhyperior V is another interesting one. So it's 80 damage, discarding energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Meh. And 210 damage. During this next turn, this Pokemon can't use this heavy Roctillery attack. So if you're going to play a basic fighting type Pokemon, just play Sandaconda. It needs one less energy, and you can just reuse the energies with Colossal, unfortunately. So we've got Simeon. It's nice to see another Simeon card, but unfortunately this one's nowhere near as good as the team play one. It literally just does 80 damage, and you can just search for other Pokemon. So we've got the Galarian Surf Edge card. So it literally just says 130 HP, and the main attack is Meteor Assault, 180 damage. So it's quite nice for a stage 1, but it's fighting colours, so it might be quite hard to power up, but it could be interesting. Galarian Slowbro V. So basically, yeah, it's interesting. I would like this so much more if it had a retreat cost of 2, because then you could use an air balloon on it. We talked about more of this in like the V card starter deck video, but it basically just leaves the opponent active poisoned. If this is in the active, you can leave their Pokemon poison, which is nice, but because it's got a retreat cost of 3, there's no easy way to switch out of it unless you have to manually switch it using a switching card or stuff. I would like it so much more if it had a retreat cost of 2. Stick an air balloon down, you get a free poison every time, which could be nice. But I think in Toxtricity decks, you'd much rather still just play the Garbodor. Makes it a lot more easier, I think. So we got another Grimer and another Muck, except for this is the first like regular Muck and Grimer we've had in ages, because we just had a Alolan Muck for so long. Fortunately, nothing amazing. So the Ariados was released at the same, announced at the same time as this was released at the same time as the Eternitus VMAX, and when you evolve this Pokemon, so when it evolves from the Spinarak, you can switch one of your opponent's evolution Pokemon, Stage 1 or Stage 2 or VMAX, with the active Pokemon, which is nice, but it's only when you evolve it, so you can't like reuse it. I mean, it's only for evolution Pokemon, so it's wasted against like AD Possession and Pikachu, like electric decks or like other big basic decks. I don't think it'll see that much play. I am tempted to like potentially put a 1-1 line, maybe probably not 2-2, but like 1-1 line in Eternitus VMAX. But I think I'd just rather have the Alolan Muck from Team Up just to discard item cards. So here's the big boy. Here's the man himself, the one we've all been waiting for, the chase card, the Crobat V. So very similar to the old Shaymin EX. When you bench this Pokemon, you can draw until you have 6 in your hand, but unlike Shaymin, you can only use one of the Night assets. It's going to be called something else in English. One of the Night asset abilities per turn. So it's a nice one-off in a lot of decks, because a lot of the time when you're using the Dene GX, there's cards you don't want to discard in your hand, whereas if you've got like a 1 or a 2 card hand and you don't want to discard those cards, you can just use the Quick Ball to grab the Crobat and then draw an extra like 4 cards or whatever, which is a lot more flexible. I don't think many decks are going to want to play more than 1 copy of this, because I think a lot of the time the Dene is going to be better on your first turn, and if you want to dig for a specific card, you get to draw the maximum amount of 6. But in Eternitus VMAX, you need at least 3 copies of this. So this is going to be like a $25, maybe $30 card, probably right out the bat. Pardon the pun. And yeah, it's going to be pricey cards. So make sure if you want to play Eternitus VMAX in real life, make sure you pre-order at least 3 of these just so you have them, or just proxy them until like real events begin, like tournaments and stuff. You don't really need to have the cards in hand straight away, but yeah, it's a nice one-off in a lot of decks and a lot of tag team and VMAX decks. to sort of avoid you having to discard your hand, and you need 3 copies in Eternitus VMAX. Great card, one of the top 5, like probably best cards in the set, I'd say. So Darkrai, if this Pokemon has a dark energy attached to it, takes 20 less damage from attacks. Like, I mean, you can do 120 damage for 3 darkness energy. It does 20 damage more for each darkness energy attached to it, but you haven't really. It's not very easy to ramp it up. So even with the Hydrogon, it's not going to be that great. It's a shame because Darkrai usually get some nice cards, and not that one. This Pokemon can't be paralyzed. It's pointless. So we've got the Hydrogon. So this is effectively Deluge. This is the Blastoise from the old sets, black and white. I can't remember the exact name of the set because it's been. I wasn't playing that then. But you can just attach as many darkness type energies from your hand as you want to your to one of your Pokemon as often as you like. So you can just keep doing it over and over and over again. So it's great that we've got a bit more reliable way to accelerate darkness type energy. The only problem is it's a stage 2. So unlike Colossal, where you can just keep getting energy from your discard pile and just keep reusing the same energies over and over again after Pokemon get knocked out, this one requires you to have the darkness energies in hand. And unless you're playing like support card like Lady, which gets you 4 darkness energies, we don't even have like a Professor's Letter to get you darkness energies out of the deck. You haven't really got any. You're only going to be getting like 1 energy per turn with either. I think it's Training Court, Viridian Forest. And even water decks have the Capacious Bucket that allows you to, search your deck for 2 water energies and add them to your hand. So even if this wasn't a stage 2 Pokemon, which would be very hard to get out and it's clunky and it's got a retreat cost of 3 and all that bad stuff, we haven't really got easy ways of getting darkness type energies out of the deck and getting them in your hand to actually put them down to deluge onto stuff. So yeah, not a massive fan. But late game, if you can probably get a whole bunch of darknesses out with the energy, using energy retrieval to get the darkness energy out of your discard pile. But Sandaconda is so much Colossal is so much better because you can just reuse them straight from the discard pile, and you can also use fighting fire type energies if you want to do like Ninetales V or like have a one-off fire Pokemon in your fighting type deck. So this will definitely see play in the future with some kind of darkness Pokemon, especially if we get better ways to search out darkness energy or even just basic energies from the deck. Yeah, definitely if you like darkness type Pokemon, definitely keep a couple of these back in your binder for the future. I'd say this is also one of the pre-release promos actually, so you can see the beautiful English artwork here as well. So I like this one. This is really nice art. I love this one. Yeah, Dark Squall. As often as you like during your turn, attach dark type energy from your hand to one of your dark Pokemon. So yeah, definitely one for the future, not for the now, unfortunately. Not for the now. Sorry, Hydrogon fans. I don't even know any Hydrogon fans, to be honest. It's yeah. Hooper's really good. So this Pokemon does 0 damage if it's just stayed in the active. But if this Pokemon's moved from your bench to your active on this turn, this attack does 90 damage. So it's like Zapdos from Team Up, but obviously we don't have Electra powers, so there's no way to increase the damage, but you're just doing a flat 90, and it's really nice. Like, as maybe 2 copies. I'm probably going to put 2 of these as one-offs in my Deciduous deck. You do 90 damage like early game to knock out Rowlets and be sort of super aggressive against like the Rowlets and the Dartrixes, and then even when they become a Deciduous, you can just still do 90 damage to it, and potentially with your Zigzagoons you can use Scoop Up Net to finish them off, and you can just potentially use your second Hooper to take knockout, because they're only doing unfortunately it's weak to grass, which means that the Deciduous is knocking you back, but with the Hoopers hopefully you can be aggressive enough early to sort of counter that. But also like 90 damage is nice if you're only doing like 240, 270 with your Eternitus VMAX. Being able to use Hooper to finish it off at the end of it is really nice. So it's a one prize Pokemon. I can imagine this will probably go in most darkness type decks as at least a one-off for the next few years, but we'll have to see obviously what else comes out. But yeah, very nice little flexible darkness type Pokemon. It's nice to see Hooper get another nice card. So Feevil's quite nice. You can get any 2 cards from your deck and put them into your hand, but it's a stage 1, so I'm not overly excited about that. Grimmsnarl VMAX. So unfortunately, this is not amazing, because you basically it does 170 damage, and then it does 50 more damage for each extra darkness type energy attached to this Pokemon. But you can only get the extra effect from 3. So if you've got 6 energies, you're only doing 220, 270. Energy beyond the second doesn't count, so actually you only can do a maximum of 270, which is very underwhelming. They should have let it do like one more energy, so you attach 6 energies to it and you can do 320. But just play Eternitus VMAX. Shame that Grimmsnarl's first card's really bad, but well, first VMAX is really bad. Maybe I'll get a better card in the future. There's lots of people like Grimmsnarl. So here are the boys. The boys have arrived, everyone. The boys have arrived. Look, we can actually fit both of them on the screen at the same time. That's beautiful. I should have done that for all the VMAXs. We talk about this a lot more in the Eternitus VMAX deck profile. Check out the gameplays, the playlist. You can find a deck profile for this. We might put a link in the description if I can remember. But yeah, both of the cards are really strong. But obviously, it's all about the VMAX. The first one is good though. For 30 damage, you can get an energy card. A darkness, I think it's a basic darkness energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, so you can power up 2 Eternitus on your first turn if you're going second, which is really nice. And you're just doing 30 damage, which that extra 30 damage might be enough to help the VMAX knock it out next turn also, alongside the glaring Zigzagoon pings. But you're never going to use the second attack on the V. But on the VMAX, the ability basically just says if you've got 8. You can play until you've basically, the English translation's been posted now. The English text of the card's been posted, so it basically just says you can have 8 Pokemon in play, but they're only going to be Darkness type Pokemon. If you bench, you can't even bench a Pokemon that's not a Darkness type Pokemon. So you can't even think about putting a Dedenne down to draw some cards and you discard down to 5 and then play more. It just doesn't work. So if Eternitus VMAX is up, you have to discard the other Pokemon from another type. So it's just so much better. Don't worry about water sneasels and like all that kind of weird stuff. Just play a deck with all Darkness Pokemon. You've got your Crobat Vs. Just super consistent, just smacking deck. Just like strong deck. And it does, the Affinity Zone attack, or whatever the name of the attack is in English, does 30 damage times all of the Dark Pokemon in play, including this one. So you're doing 270 damage for 2 energies. Absolutely filthy. Broken card. One of the top 3 decks, I would say. After post rotation, I'm not sure, obviously, like because of Vikavolt and the mini format between in August, but post rotation, once the Ultra Prism, Celestial Forbidden, and Lost Thunder cards are rotated, very strong deck. There will be a lot of other fighting type Pokemon decks springing up in the meta because of how strong Eternitus is to help keep it in check as well. Dragapult unfortunately is weak to Dark, so this will beat Dragapult like 8 out of 10 times. So. Very strong card. We'll talk about it more in the deck profile, so make sure you check that out if you like it. This is like the chase card from the set. This is like the biggest attacking Pokemon, the token Pokemon. It's just so strong. So we've just done a little layout change. I can actually see the text on the screen at the same time as the card, so we can actually so it actually looks a bit better. Sizor V is nice. You can discard a tool and a special energy from the opponent's active Pokemon for 1 energy, so it's a nice little option against potentially like an Eternitus VMAX or something that's got like an air balloon on it or whatever. And the VMAX is alright. Unfortunately, the second attack's very underwhelming. So the first attack does 90 damage for 2 energy, and this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks, and then the second attack only does 190 damage for 3 energies, and it's a VMAX. It's it's weak to fire. It's just very, very underwhelming. If you want to play a VMAX metal type Pokemon, probably just stick to Copperajah VMAX from Sword and Shield, from Rebel Clash probably. Such a shame. Sizor fans deserve a good Sizor. We haven't had a good Sizor since like the Sizor EX, I don't think, from like Breakpoint. So beautiful cards, but probably won't see much play. Very underwhelming cards. The damage output was way too low on those. So we got here the Agron. If this Pokemon has full HP and be knocked out by attacks, this Pokemon is not knocked out, it becomes 10 HP. So it's quite nice. Probably only really doing 160 damage for 4 energies, and it's a stage 2. But the fact it's got the sturdy ability is really handy. So it's going to be tough for some VMAXs potentially to deal with it if it's on full HP. But it's only if it's on full HP and it tries to get knocked out. So like Eternitus VMAX, I can just use a Zigzagoon ping, or Deciduous, I can just put 20 damage on the bench. And then, and then it can be knocked out. We won't be able to knock it out because of the HP and the resistance and stuff. But yeah, it's all right. It's just nothing amazing, unfortunately. So we've got a new Clink Clang. This is quite fun. So metal, colorless. If you've got no Clink or Clink Clang on your bench, this attack does nothing. So it's quite funny. You could have like the whole team here. Unfortunately, even though the attacks are easy to get off, it's stage 2 again. So 200 damage for stage 2. It's only got 150. It just seems a bit slightly underwhelming. Now this is interesting. Galarian Stunfisk. So there's also the Electric Arctozoa. Did we even get a chance to talk about that? I'm not sure if we did. We might have actually glossed over it earlier. So we'll just quickly talk about this card. So one of the pre-release promos as well. Biting Whirlpool. Whenever your opponent attaches an energy from their hand to one of their Pokemon, you put 2 damage counters on it. So let's just think about it logically. If they're using Welder, they're attaching 2 energies plus 1 for the turn potentially. You're going to put 6 damage counters on it, which can be really nice. So put a nice bit of damage on them, and it can just sit on the bench. If you get 2 of these down, that one Pokemon's taking 12 damage, 120 damage from just having the ability down. So it's a nice little effect. And if you are playing the Galarian Stunfisk, it sort of makes it just piles on the pressure a little bit, more for them. So it basically just says during your next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, put 12 more damage counters on it. So you could potentially, I can see like some kind of crazy Arctozoa Galarian Stunfisk deck that sort of makes it really hard to deal with. You could put Giant Bomb on this, and if it's if you damage it, you take in 200 damage. Yeah, 80 from the Giant Bomb. 100. The Giant Bomb. I think Giant Bomb's 110 damage. It's been a while since I played Giant Bomb. Yeah, 200 odd damage when you attack into them, which is really, really strong. And then the ability gives it an extra 20 HP for each metal attachment. Let's say you've got 2 metal energies on it. It's got 240 HP. You can even stick a buff padding down on it. No, you wouldn't even need to put buff padding. You just put a toughness cape on it. And it's got 290 HP. And that's going to be quite hard for some decks to deal with. So I can see someone making a viable Galarian Stunfisk deck at some point. Problem is, you can use boss's orders to boss around it and maybe hit into a fresh wall and just knock out stuff on their bench. But I can see like this being very annoying to deal with, just like the Galarian Stunfisk in the game as well. Like you just keep stepping on them. So we've got a new Metal card. It's not very strong, but we'll have a look at the artwork because it's a legendary, really nice artwork. Mythical, I think actually. Now this Copperage is quite nice. So we've had 2 half decent Copperages recently. So this Pokemon can't be affected by special conditions as the ability. So it's a nice little thing you can just stick up. Like it is immune to poison and stuff. And Revenge Stop, 120 damage. If any of your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on it, you can do 120 more damage. So this can be really easy. You just stick a Spiritomb on the bench and let it use its Building Spite ability. And then this is live, so you're doing 240 damage. The only problem is it's 4 energies. Metal, colorless. So you can theoretically like play 2 metal energies and a triple colorless energy or a twin energy. Or this would be so much better if it was like metal triple colorless, because then you could just do metal energy and then triple acceleration energy. The great thing is it's also got 190 HP, but 240 is a nice amount of damage to hit, but due to the high energy requirements for it, it's going to be very hard to chain multiple of these attacks over and over again. So I don't think it's going to be seeing much play, this Copperaja. So the Kangaskhan is the one of the other promos that I showed off. It just says 30 damage, 90 damage more if one of your opponent's Pokemon was knocked out the last time. Retaliate. We've seen it lots of times before. It's not really enough damage, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's not great. So this is quite interesting. This Dunsparce. So there's another one of these. If you're going to play like a mill deck that's not using the Toxtricity to attack with, or you can just like stick one or 2 of these in just in case you're not ready to attack that turn. So when this is knocked out, you just discard 2 cards of your opponent's 2 cards of their opponent's deck. And if you attach a trick, I think it's Curse Shovel, you discard an extra 2 or 3 cards when this gets knocked out. So that could be quite annoying to deal with, I guess. So you could just play this in the mill deck as like 1 or 2 off. If you haven't got your Toxtricity powered up, you just stick this up and at least you're milling some extra cards for them, I guess. Got to see it. It was always nice to see a new Lugia, and this artwork's absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, you just return energy from this Pokemon to your hand, but you could use like a twin energy, and just return the energy. But 128 damage is not enough, unfortunately. Lugia deserves better. Okay, so we've got Salamence V and Salamence VMAX. So these received quite a lot of hype, and I think it's going to be a decent archetype, but the reason I haven't done a deck profile for it, because I just think that Center Scorch VMAX is probably just a better way to go if you're going to be playing like sort of a slightly roguish kind of deck. The only benefit this has over Center Scorch VMAX, I would say, is the spreading option. So Salamence V, 3 energies, you do 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, which can be quite nice if you if they're playing like stuff like the Feebas, like that has 30 HP, or they got like 60 HP basics, you could just do 2 lots of spreads over 2 turns if you use Welder for this. And then obviously 160 damage, but the VMAX is where it's at. So for 1 energy, this does 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So you could use this to set up the damage knockout on one of their tag teams or something, and put 40 damage on one of their basics, and then next turn, if you haven't got the next attack powered up, you could potentially knock out one of the basics. It's not amazing, but you can use it to finish off stuff like that's stuck on the bench, like you can't knock them out of the 240, so you just finish something else off. But the big attack for 4 energies is Max Wings, just 240 damage. I think I'd probably even want to play Charizard VMAX over this, because even though the spreading is a nice option to have, the 240 damage isn't really overly relevant unless you're playing against like Zacian or one of those other like non-evolving V Pokemon. You can use the energy to give it plus 20 extra damage, but then you're only attaching 1 energy manually for the turn. You're not like accelerating energy to it with like a triple acceleration energy or a welder. And yeah, it's nice, but I think like because you're doing for only 1 more energy, you're doing 300 damage, and then if you use some pings of Galarian Zigzagoon, you can knock out most of the VMAXs. I think, and also it's got an extra 10 HP, which might be relevant sometimes, but I don't think so. But I think there's going to be more electric decks in the meta still, especially with the November set coming out, than sort of decent water archetypes straight away. So Charizard VMAX is also less likely to be hit for weakness as well. So, but I can see Salamence finding a place. Maybe in the future, especially if like we get any low HP Pokemon. Like if you're playing Salamence VMAX and your opponent wants to play like Mad Party, you can just do like 2 hits, 2 like sweeps with the Salamance's first attack and just like wipe out their board. So that could be quite fun. Like having spread around is always a nice option to have, but there are much more consistent and stronger VMAXs, I think. So there's a few like Pokemon like this Starly, where you like in the Rowlet we saw earlier, where you play the Bird Keeper, this turn you can use the attack for free. It just lets you search your deck for any 2 cards, but not amazing. And the Staraptor's not great either. So the Swanna as well. If you play Bird Keeper, you can use the Feather Slash, 70 damage, and if you discard a card from your hand, you do 70 more damage. 140 damage, just stage 1 though, thank you. And we talked about the Mad Party and the Bunnelby and stuff. Talked about that already. So we got here a nice Credence. So this is quite exciting. I'm quite excited for this. Some people already sort of theorising lists and thinking up ideas for this, like with Pokédoll and stuff. So Hit and Run is back on the menu, boys. The 2 energy. So the first attack, you can just discard a tool card attached to them. Yeah. But 100 damage. So use a twin energy or a triple acceleration energy. Return this Pokemon and all cards attached to it to your hand. So unlike the hit and run decks, some of the other hit and run decks that just swap it to the bench, that means because it's back in the hand, you're saving the energy so the triple acceleration doesn't get discarded. And as long as you've got another Squovet, the other fat squirrel, you can just on the bench you can just evolve this up and attack straight back again. So you're just doing 100 damage over and over again. Obviously, in an ideal world, you use Lily's Pokédoll to put the Pokédoll in the active, and then unless they're forced to use boss's orders to boss around it. I think this could be quite annoying for some decks. I don't know, like in Eternitus VMAX, you can use Zigzagoon to knock out the Pokédolls, and then you're forced to then stick out a Squovet, which gets knocked out very easily, even by a Hooper. I'm not sure how it's gonna. I think it's obviously Deciduous is gonna spread around it as well. Spread damage to the the Pokédolls as well. I think someone might come up with a good ideas, solid, consistent, decent ideas for this, but I just don't think it's strong, but I don't know like what place in the current expected meta that this deck will have as well. I'm just not sure just yet. So we've got Corvonite. It's not amazing. So it just says basically once during your turn, when you evolve this Pokemon, when you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, you may choose one of your Pokemon and return that card and all cards attached to it in your hand. So it's just, I don't know why like this is stage 2. This effect should be on like a stage 1 or something, but yeah. So that's all the Pokemon. There's some really nice cards in there, but there's also some really nice trainer cards. So big Parasol. So attach this to as a tool card, obviously, and as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, you can prevent all damage of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all of your Pokemon. So you can stop Deciduous from placing damage counters, Dragapult from placing damage counters, like the effects of like paralyzing this. If you're worried about stuff paralyzing you, you can you know, stop them from paralyzing you, putting you to sleep with your opponent's attacks and stuff. This is very much a meta-dependent card, so like if you're expecting a lot of spread, and by spread I mean placing damage counters, not like an attack doing, you know, 30-30 or something. Well, it says the effects of the attack, so I'd have to maybe wait until I see the translation. I'm not sure if it would stop like Jet Punch style effects, but yeah, there's lots of things this can stop. Paralysis, not being able to attack like next turn, you know, other stuff like that. It could be useful, but it's a very much meta dependent card. I'm not sure where it fits in the current meta. So I can see some stall or control or like single prize decks potentially paying this. So if this Pokemon is attached to is knocked out by the damage of an attack, that player discards any prize cards they would take for a knockout instead of putting them into the hand. So if you're playing like a single prize deck, you can just stick this tool card in and then like they just force to discard the prize card straight away. So it could sort of, especially if you're like trying to control their hand, maybe reset stamp, Marnie them and stuff. You could also stick this on Tag Team or VMAX Pokemon and they're not going to get any prizes for the knockout and they just have to discard them. But I don't know, like, there must be, but they're probably in better tool cards to play most of the time. But I can see someone might be playing these in like more control-y type decks for trying to stop them from taking their extra prizes and stuff. Bird Keeper, yep. So if you swatch your active Pokemon, you get to draw 3 cards. So it's a nice option to have. Tate and Liza saw play, and it's very similar. You're only switching or drawing 3 cards. So I can see some decks running this as like a little extra like support Pokemon. So next up, we've got the Cape of Toughness. So that's like they confirmed the name of it. It's like Toughness Cape. Would it be so much more easier? It's like the Cape of Toughness. Sure, whatever. So the basic Pokemon gets 50 plus HP, apart from GX Pokemon. This would have been filthy to put on obviously an Arcus, Dialga, and Palkia or something, or a like Reshizard. But you can make your Zacian become 270 HP. Wait, yeah, 270 HP for Zacian. Like the Pokemon like the Stunfisk we talked about earlier can just be so much more tanky. Toughness Cape is going to be a very good card for a lot of decks, and because it's any Pokemon gets 50 HP more, you can even put it on like the Hooper. I mean, you obviously probably won't use the Hooper, but like any basic like big HP legendary Pokemon that's got like 120, 130 HP, you can bump it up to 170, 180, which makes it slightly more tankier. There's lots of decks that's going to use this, I imagine. It's just one to bear in mind in the future. Like Vikavolt V makes it to 260. It just any sort of big attacking basic V deck, or potentially some non-vert V decks are going to use Toughness Cape. It's a very good card. The Familiar Bell. Search your deck for a Pokemon. One second. The Familiar Bell. Search your deck for a Pokemon with the same name as a Pokemon in the discard pile, and then put it into your hand. So, turn 1, it's just completely dead. You've got nothing in your discard pile, or even maybe turn 2. So you might as well just play extra like copies of Pokecom or Great Ball, depending on the count of your Pokemon. I'm not a massive fan of this because you only can play 4 of the same Pokemon. Glimmer Tangle, yep, so that Toxicity, really good. This lets you reflip the effects of coin flips, so this stadium's just existing makes all the coin flipping decks slightly more viable in the future, I imagine. It's good that we've finally got like something to help coin flips that isn't Will. It's lucky the Psyduck. Wait, is the Psyduck from Team Up? I think the Psyduck might be from Team Up, so that one that stops the opponent from playing any trainer cards. You can just use the Glimwood Tangle and then stop, and then you got 2 chances to stop your opponent using trainer cards whilst you set up your deck, still set up a combo that you're trying to do, maybe do some more milling or something. Yeah, lots of applications for this. Very strong stadium. I'm sure it'll see play in the future when we get some decent coin flipping cards. So we've got Kaboo. Not amazing. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 4 cards. But if you have one Pokemon in play, you draw 8. So I can see the argument for this in like a greens deck where you've just like got a couple of basics, like big basics that you, and then later on you're going to be drawing 8, but then it's just you're only drawing 4 at the start of it. You might as well just use Marnie 90% of the time, or Professor's Research. Old PCs. I absolutely love the artwork on this. If you look carefully in the we're gonna open it in the background. We're gonna zoom in just so you guys can see. You can actually see here. Look, it's got the OG like ride-on sort of like artwork from like one of the other like games in the background there, which is quite cool. Yeah, so we've got the giant PC. Sorry, let's try and get my computer sorted back out for the zooming. Not a great card though. If you flip 2 coins, if both are heads, you can put a card from your discard pile into your hand. There's no way to sort of change the effect of coin flipping trainers. So to flip 2 heads, the only play I can see this potentially being like stall decks where they just play cards that they don't really, they're just trying to get resources back. So you just maybe sometimes put in this just to recover some things, but you have to flip 2 heads. The odds of that happening are so low consistently. Piers is great. So we talk about this more in the Eternitus VMAX deck profile, but you just basically search your deck for an energy card, any energy, could be special energy, and a darkness type Pokemon. So you get the energy card, put it on your Pokemon, and then the darkness Pokemon most of the time be Crobat V, and then draw a bunch of new cards. Really useful, very flexible card. Probably going to put 2 to 3 copies of this in every single Eternitus VMAX deck, I imagine. I'm going to play for at least for the immediate future. And I'm not sure about other darkness type decks because I haven't really thought about many of the other ones apart from Eternitus. But I imagine if they're playing like a couple of copies of Crobat, you'd probably want to put this in. And also you can it can get you any dark Pokemon. So you can even get your stage 1s and stage 2s, like if you're playing Hydrogon, for example. So very strong supporter. Will be in a lot of darkness decks. So we got Pokemon Breeders Nurturing. So you choose. I love the artwork, by the way. It's got like, little Yampers there looking after the Wooloos and stuff. It's very cute. Choose up to 2 of your Pokemon for play. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto the Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. You can't use this card during your first turn or on a Pokemon that's just played this turn. So it's nice, but if you're playing a deck with a lot of stage 1s and stage 2s, but it's because we haven't got any reliable ways to search up supporters, you're going to have to be playing like 3 to 4 copies of this, and then because you're still evolving it up normally, you're still evolving it, you can't then evolve that same Pokemon again, so you can't just go like straight up and Deciduous. So it's a nice little card for like stage 1, stage 2 decks, but without any reliable ways to find it, I'm not overly excited about that. Rare Fossil, same as Identified Fossil, but at least it's got 60 HP instead of 70 HP, I suppose. That's something to be grateful for. I also like the artwork, so you can see all like the fishes and stuff there from the new set. Yeah, nothing new about that. So Rose is quite handy, so might try this in Stonjourner VMAX, and some people might try this with Eternitus and other VMAXs in the future. You attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon VMAX, so it can be in the active or the bench. And if you attach any energy this way, you have to discard your hand, which is a really bad drawback. But if you're playing Silvally GX, not Chinchino because you haven't got anything to discard, Silvally GX or any sort of Pokemon or passive abilities that let you draw cards, you can then just draw back. But there's also the Rose Tower Stadium that's allowed. We'll put both of these up actually, so you can see them both at the same time. If you've got the Rose Tower Stadium, you can draw until you've got 3 cards in your hand. So you attach the energies with Rose to power up your VMAX. You use Rose Tower to draw until you have 3, and then hopefully you've got a nice big attack like powered up ready in 1 turn. I much prefer, I think if I'm going to play Rose, I'm probably going to play it in a Silvally GX engine, so you're just going to use the disc reload ability to draw 5 cards, and then you're not relying on stadiums because they can play KX Wells, they could counter your tower, and if you've got like Rose in your hand and you haven't got a tower, unless you're taking a knockout with those 2 energies you're attaching to the active Pokemon and then get some prize cards, you're only going to have like 2 cards in hand, and then you might just brick next time if you've got nothing else to play. So I really like the idea of playing Silvally GX. I might do a Stonjourner VMAX Silvally deck profile soon. I'm very excited about like other potentially ways to play with Sylval IGX with the Rose as a nice little combo. Definitely excited to play around with those. So we got Spike Move. This is really nice for potentially Spiritomb. So whenever a player's active Pokemon moves to the bench, so when you basically switch or hard retreat, you put 2 damage counters on the Pokemon that goes onto the bench. So you can hard retreat the Spirit, like you got like a Jirachi or any other Pokemon, or you just put the Spiritomb in the active, you switch it, or even if you hard retreat, you put 2 damage counters on it. It just builds up nicely, and this is also really good for like other decks like the spread decks, potentially Deciduous, help with the numbers. It's just quite it's a nice little like threatening stadium. The only problem is it relies on your opponent not having the counter stadium. So 90% of the time, the best stadiums we see in the meta are ones that have an immediate effect, or you can get to use them. Heat Factory, Ultra Space, Chaotic Swell. You're discarding their stadium straight away, and then they have to play another one, so it's costing them like 2 stadiums, but effectively. Yeah, some of the best stadiums have effects like Giant Half. They have like effects that works that you can use straight away. So I'm not too sure about Spike Muff for most decks, but I'm sure Spiritomb might use it, and maybe some other kind of like damage countery like type spread decks. Could be interesting. Struggle Gloves. So this was a Japanese promo, so it's quite a small image. You attach it's a tool card. If your Pokemon is attached to has a weakness, which is the same as your so if let's say I'm playing Dragapult, it's quite hard to explain this. If I'm playing Dragapult and I attach Struggle Gloves to it, my attacks do 30 more damage to Eternitus VMAX. So if your Pokemon this has this card attached to is the weakness to the active Pokemon's type, basically. So it's very niche. I think a lot of the time the extra 30 damage is not going to be overly relevant if you're being hit for weakness. So I'm not sure how much play this will see, but it depends on the meta. It's very much a meta-dependent card. Turbo Patch is busted, so new sort of energy accelerator, and I got a little bonus fairy energy there, even though it's rotated out of standard soon. Well, the Pokemon are ready. You can still use Gardevoir, Sylveon, and Whimsicott for a bit longer. So, Turbo Patch, you flip a coin. If heads, you attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your basic Pokemon that isn't a GX. You can't use this, unfortunately, to power up an ADP in one turn. But you can power up your Zacian Vs. You can power up your basic like Vs before they evolve. So you can power up your Cinder Scorch or your Eternitus before they evolve if you want to. You can power up. I think the main use in this will be kind of initially, I think like Zacian V decks, maybe like Vikavolt V if you want to try and play that in standard without Electra powers and Thunder Mountain like after the proper rotation. It's a very strong card because most of the time you only really need to flip like 1 or 2 heads with these kind of flippy cards to sort of have a big swing in a game, and especially in metal decks, if you combine this with on top of like the metal sources, you're getting so many energies back from the discard. And if you're drawing for your deck super quickly with the Denays and Professor's Research and then the Crobat all on the same turn, you can probably see multiple of these power up like 2 Pokemon potentially. Turbo Patch is going to see a lot of play, unfortunately. It's a very strong card. And more coin flips in the game. Huzzah! I know a few people that are not a fan of coin flips, unfortunately. We've got the Yellhorn, so both active Pokemon are now confused. So if you've got like a Jirachi or something that you can switch back out with a if you've got Scoop Up Net, you can confuse the active Pokemon and then switch back out. I can see this maybe going in some disruption or potentially some stall decks, control variants, but it's very easy to play around this. You can like if it's a V Pokemon, you can just evolve it to a VMAX and the effect goes. If it's if you've got like a switching Pokemon, you can just like your Pokemon with free retreat on your bench, you just switch into it and retreat back into it. I can see some decks playing this, and especially in the future if we get any like Pokemon that do extra damage for something's confused or anything that's sort of hate on confusion type stuff. But it's definitely one keeping back in the future. I don't think it's going to see much play initially, but it's definitely one for the future. My voice is going. I've had to take multiple breaks. That's why there's some little cuts here and there. But we've got 3 cards to go, guys. We've got the special energies, Heat Fire Energy. We'll talk a bit more about this in terms of setting the use of a Cinder Scorch. I might see more play in the future, especially when we lose Welder, because you can't use this with Welder, unfortunately, because Welder only attaches basic fire energies. But A lot of the time, the extra 20 HP is not going to matter, I don't think. With like, especially when a lot of the format might be like a two-shotting format with Eternitus, Send a Scorch, that much stuff. And like putting an extra 30 HP on your Charizard VMAX probably not going to help a lot of the time. But I can see some fire decks that initially, elite tag team VMAX decks, maybe you potentially put in 1 or 2 of these just as a like, nice little extra boost. You just attach them manually. The only worry is like you got this in the hand and it's your first turn, or you go in second and you want to weld it. You can't weld with it. You only weld with 1 energy, and then you're just getting 1 as energy. You just pray. You just really wish this was a basic energy. So we'll see play, but it's not anywhere near as powerful as like horror energy or speed energy, unfortunately. Hide energy is a lot better though. So this basically just says your dark Pokemon has no retreat cost, which is great. It's just so good because then you don't have to worry. Like if something's got damage, you don't have to worry about losing your energies when you hard retreat into something. Unfortunately though, there might be a lot of special energy hate still around. The Dangerous Drill in Eternitus VMAX can discard this. The Giratina from Unified Minds. So I wouldn't play like 4 copies of this in Darkness type decks, but I might just keep like 2, maybe 3. Just as a nice little option for like having to switch Eternitus out so you don't lose your energies, and like if it gets damaged and then attack with a fresh one and without having to lose the energy. So then even if the fresh ones gets knocked out, you've still got the other Eternitus VMAX that are still ready to smack. So, and yeah, I imagine lots of other dark decks will use this in the future, because apart from Hydrogon, there isn't really any ways to reliably accelerate dark energy. So I think also, as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides darkness energy. I'm not sure if Eternitus VMAX can accelerate this. I don't think so. Yeah, it just says you may attach a dark energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. It doesn't say basic dark energy, so you should be able to attach the hide energy as well with the Power Excel attack, which is quite nice. So yeah, very excited for hiding energy. It's going to be in a lot of darkness decks. And last but not least, powerful colorless energy. So it's quite a new effect. We haven't really seen like colorless energies for a while getting like extra status or damage boosts. So your colorless Pokemon get 20 extra damage. So it's nice, but if you think about like what we're getting, like the Credence, you'd just be using like the Twin Energy. Salamence VMAX, you most of the time you just want to be using Welder or potentially triple colorless energy. Like in terms of the Bunnelby, again, you only want to use Twin Energy just to power up the Bunnelby. So I'm not sure what decks this will be used in initially. I'm sure some deck in the future, some colorless deck in the future might spring up and get some like extra use from the 20 damage, but I'm not sure. Maybe you could put like one or two of these in Salamence VMAX just as like an extra way to do extra 20 damage. But if you're doing 240 to 260, I mean you're two-shotting most things anyway, so I'm not sure if it's overly relevant. But I'm sure I'm sure things will be able to use this in the future. So that's all of the main set cards, guys. And like there's some beautiful full arts as well. Obviously, like the full art Crobats are going to be pricey. Like some really nice, like the Salamence artwork's beautiful, full art trainers and stuff. We don't know yet for certain which of the secret rares are in the set just yet, because we only know like the most of the main cards from the main set list. But I would say my top 5 cards in terms of if you want to like have a buy, if you say like you're making a buy list or you're looking out for hype cards when you're pulling cards, the top 5 cards are probably Crobat V, regular full art, obviously, Eternitus VMAX. I really like Turbo Patch, but I'm not sure if it's like overly powerful. But Turbo Patch, Scorch VMAX, and probably Deciduous, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sold on Deciduous just yet. Piers is going to be a very good card for the supporters, and obviously Hide Energy. So lots of good cards there. Yeah, so that's the almost comprehensive set review. We don't know what the secret rares and stuff are in the set, but yeah, once again, thanks to Poker Beach for putting the set, pretty much the full set list up, so we can sort of start talking about it. And yeah, if I was to give this set like a rating from 1 to 10 overall, I think it's like a solid 8. There's a lot of really powerful Pokemon. Eternitus VMAX, Scorch, Deciduous is decent. There's a lot of decent Pokemon, but there's obviously a lot of filler, and there's a lot of bad stage 2s that just don't really do much, and like things like non-V Pokemon, like regular V Pokemon that are just slightly underwhelming. And there's some really good, thankfully there's some really good trainer cards, and like Eternitus VMAX, Scorch, Crobat, they're going to be huge cards and stuff when they come out. So there is still a lot to love about this deck. There's about Darkness Ablaze. So probably like an 8 out of 10, I would say. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this PlaySkape Games video. Probably a record for our longest ever video. It's going to take me ages to upload and render this and all that. Please leave a comment below. What do you think of Darkness Ablaze? What are your favourite cards? What are you hyped for? What do you think? What decks are you going to build straight away? Do you have any deck profiles you want me to make? I'm hopefully going to do the ADP Zacian deck profile soon and the Stonjourner Sylvanite one, but probably more to come soon as well. And yes, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ding the bell, and yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon, Pokemon fans. Gotta catch them all. Thank you very much for watching the video. Remember, once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll be giving away this beautiful Blastoise and Piplups GX Rainbow Rare card from Cosmic Eclipse. PSA 9 graded, very hard to find. We're getting very close now, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, support the channel, and one of you lovely people could be winning this amazing card. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon, Pokemon fans. Gotta catch them all.